Today we're speaking with drummer Forrest Everett, and Forrest, you're the drummer from the LA-based ACDC tribute band Bonfire. How you doing today?
Yes, I'm doing great, thank you.
Now I first became aware of your band back in 2009. The band had put out a CD of ACDC cover tunes, obviously, and it's a pretty cool CD. So I guess that's the first place I'd like to start off with. It's a pretty cool idea, being a tribute band, that you guys would even put out a CD like that. So how did you come up with that idea? And I was kind of curious, did it sell pretty well?
Actually, I think we were approached to do it. There's a producer who had done a few different tribute acts, had done CDs with them.
Oh, okay.
And I think he actually started work on an ACDC tribute with a different band, and the recording just wasn't going very well, and basically just aborted the whole thing. And then he heard us and went, okay, these are the guys, and we went in and did it and knocked it out really quickly.
Yeah, because it's classic ACDC. Anybody fan of ACDC, they'll love it. I mean, two of my favorite songs on here are "If You Want Blood" and "Shot Down in Flames." So I was just curious, did your fans buy this? Was it real popular with your audience?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen the sales reports on it in a while, but at first it was going great. I'm not sure overall numbers of how it's sold.
Okay, but it's just...
Yeah, and also when we first put it up, of course, ACDC wasn't on iTunes for a long time after that.
Yeah, oh, wow.
So we were kind of I think there was a couple other people, I don't know if they had done entire albums, but we were like maybe the first to put up an entire album of ACDC stuff, and now, of course, in the last couple of years, ACDC's up there, so...
Well, that's totally cool. Now, I guess the next obvious question to ask is if you could share with us how you first got into the music of ACDC.
Actually, probably my first memory of hearing ACDC was I was probably, 8 or 10 years old, and it was coming out of my sister's bedroom, and they had probably the Highway to Hell album at that point. And just remember hearing it blasting out of my sister's room and going in there and looking at the cassettes, and then hearing Probably Touch Too Much was on the radio at that point. Girls Got Rhythm. And I think there was just something about the energy. Back in Black came out not too long after that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those albums that, of course, at that time, and ever since, everybody had, and it was, I don't know if ubiquitous is the right word, but it was just everywhere. You heard it all the time, and so that was just one of the records that I got into my record collection, and was just being played constantly. And then Dirty Deeds was released shortly after that. Of course, that had been sitting in the can for Atlantic Records for a few years, and after Back in Black took off, then they went and put that record out. So. And now
let me ask you, Let me ask you, you bring up, Back in Black and Highway to Hell, which are two iconic ACDC albums. And obviously Highway to Hell was the last to feature Bon Scott, and then Back in Black was the first thing to feature Brian Johnson. I was curious, are you equally a fan of both eras of the band?
To be honest, I love the earlier stuff. And that's not to take anything away from the later stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible that they've maintained the career that they've had through decades, and it just blows my mind that after all these years, and they're making good years without putting a record out, and then Black Ice comes out, it goes to number one and practically all over the world. And if my memory seems correct, the tour for the Black Ice tour is like the second biggest grossing musical tour of all time. It's way up there, which is just it just shows you the power of their music, and because they just rock out like nobody else, and that's how they win fans over, and those fans just stay year after year, decade after decade, which is a true testament just to the power of their music. So
and people for years have accused ACDC of making the same album over and over, but the great thing about ACDC, like you're saying, is is there simple tunes or any of the tunes you put on you can pretty much get, rock out to any of them, and it's one of those things, like you said, you put on any of these tunes, they almost are identical, but it seems to work because, people just love what they do.
Yeah, it's, there's few bands that really have been able to do that. I mean, practically any other band. I mean, Kiss, for example.
Yeah.
While I'm a huge Kiss fan, they consciously kind of chase trends. I mean, they'll say that they haven't.
Yeah.
But whether it was kind of going into the disco thing with I Was Made for Loving You, and then pop after that with Unmasked, and then a whole concept record after that.
Yeah.
180-degree turn. And then getting into like Alice in Chains sounding grunge stuff shortly before they put the makeup back on. So even a lot of these other bands that claim they haven't chased trends, they really have. And ACDC is just like a rhino, It's just like, this is what we do, and we're just going to bowl you over with it, and it's great because it's they're just consistent, and what they do just kind of, it just doesn't get old. I mean, even when that kind of straight ahead rock and roll was a little bit out of fashion, it didn't really matter because whatever was in fashion then was out of fashion a couple years later, and they're still there charging ahead doing that thing. So.
And let me ask you, as a guy that makes his living performing these tunes, the fact that they're not, that the songs aren't that complex, it must make it that much easier to be able to play all the material, or to learn it at least.
You know what? Actually, almost the opposite was true, because even though technically it's simple, it's all 4/4 and pretty straight ahead, just 4-on-the-floor rock drumming. Because of the similarities in some of the phrases, it almost made it harder to memorize, because you're like, okay, now this song is it 4 times and then 2 times and 4 times at the end, or 2 and then 4, or however. But it's kind of the other way, that they're technically easy to play, but memorizing it was almost harder because they're kind of similar. And even at that, there's really, and I get asked this all the time. I mean, people have asked me, like, gee, you're a great drummer, but like, don't you get bored playing ACDC stuff? And I don't at all. I mean, there is a certain difficulty just to playing simple the right way.
Yeah.
A feel and a certain swing to it that a lot of people overlook, and any great musician, any great drummer will certainly tell you that playing just a straight ahead beat, but playing it with the right pocket is actually harder than playing something that's really complicated. There's a certain magic to just playing it straight ahead that is actually really evasive, and kind of with guitar. Malcolm Young. There's few people on this planet that play rhythm guitar the way he does, and it's you can say it's the same 4 or 5 chords, but it's how you play it, and it's the energy you play it with that is the trick. And that's what we certainly try to aim for with this band, is just capturing the energy of it. As singer Sean Mulvihill would say, do we look like them? Do we sound like them? You decide. But what we really try to capture is the energy. So when we go out and when we play live, we just try to all guns blazing and just going for it.
Yeah.
So
and let me ask you, Forrest. Now we're talking a little bit about your drumming style then, and the 2 main guys that have been drumming for ACDC, of course, Phil Rudd, the original, who's back with them these days, and then we got Simon Wright, and they're both kind of similar type of drummers, but it's kind of, amazing thing to me is, like, if you look at Simon Wright, after he left ACDC, he went to drum for Ronnie James Dio, which, that stuff is a lot more complex, and it's just, really amazing. So I was curious, which one of those guys really influenced your playing?
Actually, both. I mean, I was certainly into ACDC first, and then like Dio came along.
Yeah.
And Vinny Appice was on the first couple of records.
Yeah.
And I really love that too. I mean, I kind of came from that school where both ACDC and Rush were equally valid. What's the word I'm looking for? Styles or approaches.
Yeah.
I had transcribed every Rush record up to like "Hold Your Fire," which I think was like 87 or something.
Yeah, if you can do that, you're pretty decent player,
Yeah, but like going back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago, that it's equally as hard to play like the song "Highway to Hell," which is just pretty straight ahead drum group, but to really find the right pocket and the right tempo it's really evasive. So to me, I embrace both.
Yeah.
The style and the beauty of the simplicity of Phil Rudd, and then also Simon Wright, Neil Peart,
Okay.
Somebody like John Bonham kind of encompasses both, because he's got a great swing, and yet he can also play these like crazy fills and just go nuts. And I don't know. I think there's beauty in all of it, and it's great. I still love playing this music after all these years. So
yeah, well, I love to hear that. Now, I'd like to talk a bit more about the band Bonfire that you're in. I was curious now. I guess next obvious question would be is a lot of people might be curious. Why go the route of a tribute band rather than being a band where you're writing and performing your own original material?
Right. Well, to varying degrees, we're all still involved in original stuff.
Okay.
As well. So most of us have other bands or other that we involve ourselves in as well.
Uh-huh.
The guy that started Bonfire, Steve Pandle, who was the original Angus, the original lead guitarist.
Oh, okay.
I think he started it because a few of the other bands, Atomic Punks or Red Up Again, Wild Child, were getting some notoriety in the scene, or a lot of it at that time, and he just thought, well, maybe I should just do a tribute band, and wanted to do something fun. And so of course he thought of Angus, and so he had the idea to do an ACDC tribute. It took him a little while to get it off the ground, and it was kind of a fluke that he ended up finding Sean Mulvihill, the singer.
Mm-hmm.
He had put an ad in a Music Connection, and either didn't get much response, or the guys that called just weren't the right guy. And Sean, the singer, had a copy of the Music Connection and then moved, so it got thrown in a box and forgotten about.
Wow.
It was literally months later that he came across the copy of the magazine and went like, maybe I should call that ad. Way after the fact.
Wow.
And called, and what was actually really odd is that the night John went in and auditioned for Bonfire was at a big rehearsal place in the Valley. I was on the other side of the wall rehearsing with Ozzy Tribute at the time, so I actually met Sean the night that he auditioned for Bonfire, even though I didn't get into the band until about 2.5 or 3 years later.
Oh, wow.
And right, so this is already going back to like 2000 or 2001. I joined in 2004.
Okay.
And I guess what's kept it going is just that there's, when you ask why a tribute band, it's really fun, and it's just kind of continued to grow, and the energy that we get from the fans is just like, it's just kept it going, and it's kind of taken a life of its own. So, it was somebody else that had the idea to do an ACDC tribute, and once this cast of characters, most of whom now in the band have been together for at least a good 8 years. So, with the exception of our Angus, who's been in about 2.5 years when Steve Pandle retired, everybody else in the band has got a good solid 8 years together. So, it's like, we're like brothers, and it's just one of the things we do, and we do have other music things going on, but this is just something that we have a blast doing together,
Okay. And the reason I asked that is is I want you to know, Forrest, part of the reason I started doing these interviews with guys like you, as far as guys that play in tribute bands, is to kind of educate the public, because there's a big misconception, as you probably know out there, that people often think that guys that play in tribute bands are failed musicians or musicians that couldn't make it doing their own thing. And I got to tell people, my experience is totally the opposite. I've been very impressed by all the tribute bands I've seen, perform live. And, one thing I really dig is, especially like a band like Bonfire, like what you guys do, not only do you get up on stage, and it's not just a matter of you guys get up on stage and doing an evening of ACDC music, you guys have really done your homework. I mean, looking at the photos on your Facebook page right now, you guys really look the part. It's almost, I almost swear I'm looking at photos from, 1979, or 1978, and you guys put on that good of a show, and I want people to understand that, bands such as yourselves, you guys, before you even, hit the stage for the first time, you really, take time to do the homework. You look at videos, you look at, getting down the costumes. It really a lot of homework goes into this before you even, do your first show.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, and so, it's more than you just getting up there and, like I said, covering ACDC material. Now, once the band got together, I was curious, do you know why they decided just to do Bon Scott era? Is it just that's what you guys, that's your guys' favorite era, I would assume?
Well, we do, we kind of touch on the Back in Black stuff. We've never done anything later than Back in Black.
Okay.
There's actually been a couple of occasions where we've done the whole Back in Black album.
Yeah.
But it's, I think it's, Sean, and anybody who's seen Sean and anybody who knows who Bon Scott is and has seen Sean knows that it's just like, there's Bon Scott incarnate, pretty much,
Yeah.
And so we really focus on the Bon Scott era because, since ACDC has continued along, people still have the opportunity to go see ACDC. People haven't had the opportunity to go see ACDC with Bon Scott in decades.
Yeah.
So we try to bring out the 70s ACDC show.
Yeah, that's cool because like you just touched on, a lot of times these tribute bands, they got to find their little niche, and I think you guys have found that in the fact that you're saying, people can still go see ACDC, but Bon Scott's no longer with us, so that's kind of impossible to do. But you kind of you guys can give people that come to your show a magical concert experience, and your singer, like just looking at the photo again, he looks really the part, and if he sounds like Bon Scott when people go to the show, I'm sure there's some people in the audience, like pinching themselves, man, did Bon Scott rise up from the dead, or, and that's all what this is about, just giving people, entertainment, if you will, for an evening, and I've really been to some of these tribute shows, and the bands, they dress the part, they sound the part, and I'll never forget the first time I seen this Guns N' Roses tribute, Hollywood Rose, the singer Colby Vale. He looks just like Axl Rose from 1987, and I had to like pinch myself. I almost swore I was at a Guns N' Roses show. It was that good. And that's what bands like you guys do. And now you guys are also, you've been around doing this, like you said, since 2000, and Bonfire is really starting to, create some buzz. So much that you guys got on that Access TV Greatest Tribute Bands. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that experience was like?
That was really amazing. I can't say enough about them, Katie, Darrell, and the whole production crew. It was an incredible experience to be part of, and it just ran so smoothly, and it was such a professional thing. Obviously, I think Mark Cuban and Ryan Seacrest are partners in either the show or at least the network. And it was great because, Katie's just a great demeanor about her, so we get there, and it was great because you kind of do a little bit of a dress rehearsal before the live show actually starts. So, and we weren't really nervous or anything, although she's saying, okay, you're going to be nervous the first few shows, or first few songs, and then you'll just get into it. But I think as soon as we did sound check, and you feel comfortable with the monitors, and you just you understand the way things are going to go, then, and it was also amazing because if you're familiar with the whiskey,
Yeah.
the dressing rooms are upstairs, and then you come down from a little landing downstairs directly onto the stage. And it was probably a good 5 minutes before the show actually started, which of course is live.
Yeah.
And we were up in that little landing, and I don't know if it was me or the singer, just poked our head out from behind the curtain up there, seeing the crowd saw us, and just went up here, and the whole crowd just went nuts.
Wow.
And we weren't even out on stage yet. So that energy from the crowd is, I mean, we felt like we had already won the whole night, and we hadn't even gone on the stage yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, the energy in that place was just electric before we even hit the stage, and it just went nuts. And so much of it, like always, is about the crowd.
Yeah.
The more energy from the crowd, just the more we put out. And I think the case is probably the same with any great band. And it's certainly the case for us. I mean, not that you're trying to, not give 100% on any other thing, but that crowd just pushes you over the top. And that's another great thing about ACDC music, is that music just is so much fun, and it's so, it just creates such a good vibe.
Yeah.
And it's so high energy that it just, it comes from us to the crowd gives back, and it's just a communal sort of effort,
Yeah.
But, yeah, the show was great. Being live and knowing people back home or all around the country wherever we're watching it, and just being part of that was just an incredible feeling. And just, my God, all of our phones just completely lit up afterwards. Just the people back home watching it that just hadn't experienced that. And I think that it's great that the show was live that way, because I think our energy really got transferred through the TV, and people that weren't aware of us, or just seen a little YouTube clip or something, just came back all like, "Oh my God, you guys just,
Yeah, I remember all the bands that were on the last season, especially, and I remember your guys' performance was really great, and then I think the week before we had a Kiss tribute band, Mr. Speed. I think those two performances, from last season really are the two that really stand out. All the bands that go on there, they gotta be at that level to even get on the show. But let me ask you, talk a little bit about. I know you perform, plenty of times on stage, but did you feel any extra pressure knowing that this was going to be on TV? Going out on TV live. When the camera started rolling, were you aware, or you just get up on the stage and you just did your thing?
A little bit of both. I really wasn't thinking all that much about it. I mean, it's just another gig to me, in a way, or at least, you certainly go up with the attitude of like, well, this is what we do every night, so this is really no different.
Mm-hmm.
It was impossible to not feel the presence of the cameras, because there was one literally 6 inches from my floor tom, so there's this guy practically right in my face the whole time. And the cameras are on front, so you couldn't get over the fact that, okay, they're right there. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said a couple minutes ago, when we hit the stage, we weren't nervous, because it's like, well, this is just what we do. And we do this every night. So being on TV isn't like, we're not doing anything different than what we do all the time.
Yeah, and I imagine.
It was a good kick to know that, mom and dad and the cousins and friends back home were right on the other side of that camera. But I didn't find it intimidating. It was just great, because
cool,
you just felt like you could reach out right there, and you're hanging with your friends right there. And it was more of like, felt like inviting them into the world of what we're already doing, rather than having to do something different because there's a camera there. We're doing what we always do.
Yeah, and that's got to be totally a cool feeling. I imagine after performance, you guys got a chance to see the TV performance? What was that like to sit there after you come off stage and see it on TV? Yeah, and again, again, this Access TV show is kind of like, especially out here in LA, kind of a pinnacle as far as the tribute scene. I mean, so after that performance, did you guys start getting offers from other, a lot of offers to do other gigs? A lot more than you had been getting before.
I wouldn't say a lot more. I think it was definitely an increase just in overall interest.
Yeah.
Certainly we haven't had a lull of, in the schedule since then. But, one thing that is great is that at practically every show now, there's somebody coming up saying, hey, I saw you on TV. And, they're at the gig because they saw the show. So that part is definitely noticeable, yeah.
Oh, that's totally cool. Now, I'd like to ask you, because of course, ACDC himself have been in the news recently because it was recently announced that, sadly, Malcolm Young, he suffered some kind of a stroke and he's unable to play. And I guess ACDC has decided to go on without him. I was curious, what do you think about that decision, being an ACDC fan yourself?
It's weird. I still keep hearing so many mixed reports about that.
Yeah.
Because I hear they're done, and then somebody else says, no, I read it, with good authority that they're not. And I mean, I tend to think that what you just said is the case, that Malcolm did suffer a stroke or something, and something that was debilitating enough to prevent him from going out. And I can't imagine they would replace any of those guys at this point. And I've heard that they have an agreement within them that it's going to be the five of them or nobody.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the only way you can feel about that is really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because people say, well, they went on, after after Bon Scott died, and that's true. But this is kind of different in the sense that this was a band that the two brothers started together, and Angus has never played with another guitar player, and even so much of the fact that those two guys are the primary songwriters. I understand they've got a new album they've just recorded or whatever, and I'm kind of interested here, Dolan, because I think, okay, yeah, it's still AC/DC, but it's going to sound the same because one of the main songwriters is unless they wrote it before he got sick, one of the main songwriters is no longer going to be involved, which that might alter the sound somewhat.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, when Bon died, I mean, those guys were still really young.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, there was still quite a lengthy musical career ahead of all of them.
Yeah.
And I believe that at Bon's funeral, Bon's father came to Malcolm and Angus and said, you guys got to carry on and carry the band on. Bon would have wanted that, and I'm telling you to do that, and so you got to carry this thing on. And I mean, Bon actually had known and had seen Brian Johnson with his band Geordie, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So they were aware of him, and there's also rumors about that. Brian or Bon had even said, like, hey, if anything happens to me, get that guy, or I don't know how accurate that specific story is, but they were certainly aware of him. And it wasn't that much later after Bon died that Brian was already in the fold, because they were already working on Back in Black. So it just that when they you get that determination that you got to carry on.
Yeah.
It actually moved along pretty swiftly, and the length of time between Highway to Hell and Back in Black really wasn't all that long. I mean, it's not like they sat out for a couple of years or anything. I mean, it happened pretty quickly. Some of the writing was already done, and which I guess, going back to an earlier question, is kind of why we'll do some Back in Black stuff.
Yeah.
We don't go into that because Back in Black was, it's black because it's in mourning for Bon.
Yeah.
So we touch on that, and also because there's, for some audiences, depending where we're at, a lot of those people, if they're not big AC/DC fans, they don't know anything other than You Shook Me All Night Long.
And I got to tell people listening to this, interview that the cool thing to me about what you guys do is, there are a ton of AC/DC fans all around the world. Of course, there's no denying that, but they're actually, people be surprised that there are a ton of people that only know ACDC with Brian Johnson, and so some people come to a Bonfire concert and they're like, wow, man, what is this stuff? What is this stuff? Well, not only is it ACDC, it's Bon Scott. Who's Bon Scott? You're actually, educate people, bring people more aware of his music that never knew about it.
That's so funny because that's happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen as much anymore, but certainly in the earlier days of the band, it seemed to happen a lot. And we would just laugh because people would come up and be like, "Yeah, you guys are really good, but like your singer act's kind of funny."
Yeah.
Because they didn't know who Bon Scott was, and then you'd tell them or something, and then you'd see him a couple shows later, and they'd go, "Oh my God!" Like now I get it. Like I didn't even know who that guy was, and now that I know, it's uncanny how amazingly Sean captures Bon, and so it's kind of funny that because sure there is a huge demographic of AC/DC fans, fans that aren't necessarily like rabid hardcore fans. They know the music, but they don't really know necessarily the story behind it and the different singers and all that. So. We definitely encounter that. But.
Yeah, and even if even people listen to every album AC/DC ever put out, the Bon Scott and the Brian Johnson stuff. I mean, they sound somewhat similar, but if you listen close enough, you can tell it's a different singer, different style, And so I think that's the great thing about what you do now. I was curious, Forrest, as far as you drumming. I was curious, how old were you when you first started drumming?
First memories of that, I think I was probably like 7 or 8, I think. I mean, kind of started.
Okay. And did you kind of self-taught, or did you take lessons?
No, I was pretty much, I grew up in northern Wisconsin in a really small town. So, I mean, I would see, like, Ed Shaughnessy, the drummer for Johnny Carson, or Animal on the Muppet Show, or any of that. And then what totally changed my life was given a copy of Kiss Destroyer.
Wow.
And the first song is Detroit Rock City. Yeah. And I got it on my 9th birthday and put that record on, and when those drums kick in, like that, I remember that moment so well because there's just something so powerful in what the drums do, and like that was the moment. I was like, that's what I got to do, and was basically self-taught. I did play in like the concert band in junior high and high school, but the school was so small that while there was somebody who could teach how to play snare drum and read music a little bit, there was nobody around to teach drum set. Yeah. So I had to take my reading knowledge of, okay, this is written for snare drum and that's for timpani and whatever, and just apply that to the drum set, and basically taught myself that way to play drum set. And then in 1987, there was an article and an interview in Modern Drummer magazine with Joe Percaro and Ralph Humphrey, who were also heroes of mine that were the head of the percussion department, the drum department at Musicians Institute.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of innocently just wrote off for information to the school. Yeah. And, of course, they send back everything for an application, and, okay, I got to play these bits of things and sight read this and send back a cassette, and I really didn't have in mind moving to Hollywood or anything like that. I knew I needed to get out of Little Eagle River, Wisconsin. Wow. But, it all happened so fast that the next thing I knew, I was off to the Musicians Institute, and so I studied there for a good year, and wow, that's cool. Kind of rounded out my education, but I'm the eternal student that I'm always trying to listen to different kinds of music and genres and from different eras. I mean,
that'll make you a much much 20s, better 30s, 40s. Yeah, that'll make you a much better rounded musician, being able to play different styles of music and, listening to everything. And, it must kind of amaze you, too, that, you got this band Bonfire, which is an AC/DC tribute, obviously, and to the Bon Scott era of the band. And but it seems like you're in a band now where, you're making a pretty decent living, or at least people, the band, people know who they are, and people come to the show. Are you surprised at all that it's much easier to make it in a tribute band, if you know what I mean? Whereas opposed, if you're in an original band, it might take you 6 or 7 years to even, get your first hit song out.
I think it's just a symptom of the changing times.
Yeah.
I know when I first moved to Los Angeles, the whole thing that just consumed everybody was getting a record deal.
Yeah.
And that was just, people just were obsessed with that. And people just jumped from band to band or put things together and put a demo out and shopped it. And that was just, that was the whole world. It was just getting demos and getting a record contract. And now, obviously it's just changed so much that, in a lot of ways, the record companies are, I don't want to say increasingly irrelevant, but kind of.
It's true.
There's just so many ways for individual bands to get music out there that it's just a completely different thing than it was then, and yet I don't find it surprising that the tribute thing has gained popularity because that music is obviously most of the tribute bands are bands from the 60s, 70s, maybe 80s.
Yeah.
But so many of those bands you can't see anymore. Jim Morrison's dead, or Hendrix, or Guns N' Roses isn't playing anymore. I guess they are to some extent now. But by and large, so many people can't see that music anymore.
Yeah. Plus, you guys got the added benefit of you've kind of got a built-in audience. When people come to see Bonfire, they know. They know what's going to be in the set list. They know people are, they know they're getting ACDC songs, and who doesn't want to listen to ACDC? So, they got that knowledge, knowing when they come to a Bonfire show, okay, we're going to hear ACDC, and they have that much. And then if they like what they see in that, they're going to come back to the next show. And now, even looking at the photos on the Facebook page, I would imagine that the two guys that really got to look the part are Bon Scott and the guy who does Angus. So.
Right.
So does that make it easier for you that you just have to kind of get up there and just be able to keep a beat and be able to play the songs, and you don't have to worry so much about, looking exactly like Phil Rudd or whatever?
That was kind of the funny thing with ACDC is that, which is even in some of the old videos, is that, there's footage backstage, before they go on some big concert, and there's Malcolm standing there talking to the camera about whatever. And he's like, I got to get ready for the show now. He takes the T-shirt off and just puts a different T-shirt back on, or different T-shirt on. Okay, ready to go.
Yeah.
And so, obviously it's different than, having to dress up like, being in Kiss or something like that, a Kiss tribute. I guess it does it. I really don't necessarily think about looking like Phil Rudd or dressing like him. I wear kind of 70s T-shirts and stuff anyways, but, and for Sean, the biggest thing for him singing is that, Bon Scott was always bare chested.
Yeah.
He just has to keep himself in great shape, and, he puts jeans on, and, but, the visual likeness between him and Bon Scott is incredible, and the fact that he can sing like that, and it blows my mind that he doesn't lose his voice. There have been times that we've literally played 3.5 hours, even more than 3.5 hours in a couple occasions.
Wow.
And he's singing, he's singing Back in Black songs after singing for 3.5 hours, and doesn't lose any of it. Right?
Wow.
It's mind blowing that what he's able to do like that, and fortunately there's not a lot of costume stuff going on in the band. Diego Russo, our Angus, is obviously got to wear the kind of schoolboy out. More often than not, half of that comes off during the show as well. So,
wow.
We don't have a lot of costume stuff to deal with.
Yeah, that's cool. And one thing I was noticing, looking on some of the photos on your page here is, I noticed a couple of them have, it says Joe Lester Photography, and Joe, of course, he plays in the premier Van Halen tribute out here, the Atomic Punks, and
he's a good friend of ours.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because one thing I really love about the tribute scene is I've kind of seen that how you guys all kind of network together and help each other out. So, how did you guys get him to like shoot the photos for you? Just a matter of knowing that that was something he was into.
Yeah, I mean, people just come. I mean, I don't think we've ever hired anybody to take pictures.
Yeah.
People like Joe come out. I mean, obviously Joe's very busy with
his own thing.
But he's a big fan of the band, so whenever he sees that we're playing in town and he's not playing, more often than not, he's there. There's some people in Vegas that always come out that shoot for everybody, and they come and shoot us because they're fans of the band.
Yeah.
Like what you just said, that we're kind of all in this together.
Yeah.
That we do feel like, you know, in some ways we're helping each other out, and yet we feel like it's part of a club because, I mean, while tribute bands come and go, and you know, the lesser ones tend to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Those that kind of rise to the top, whether it's Atomic Punks or Queen Nation, that are, you know, those guys are just amazing.
Yeah.
We're all friends. That, I mean, there's a certain, I don't know,
kinship almost.
Thing that we don't feel like we're like you mentioned, like, oh God, we're, you know, playing some tribute band and something like that. I mean, and again, it comes back to from the fans that there's such an energy that comes from those people because of the music that we're blessed to play that.
Yeah.
And there's a certain camaraderie between all the bands. I mean, we literally don't have. There's not another band, a tribute band out there that we've encountered that we're not friends with. I mean, there is a level that, or a sense that we're all part of something pretty special and spectacular, and you know, we are the people that are keeping this music alive for generations. And, you know, Freddie Mercury's not here anymore.
Yeah.
You go see Greg from Queen Nation, and oh my God, like, wow, it's just, you know, these people are incredible, and so yeah, I mean, we're all fans of each other. And
that's a great thing too. Like you say, you can almost sense the kinship between these bands, and the great thing about that is it's like one big happy family, and you can tell. I mean, so much to the point. I know this other guy that does Axl, Gar Boris. He's been doing the tribute thing for a long time, and not only he's got this band Appetite for Destruction, and he's gotten so much. He's successful at what he does. That he's starting to book other tribute acts. He puts his own shows together, and when he needs opening bands, he calls up, you know, his friends and other tribute acts, and hey, you guys want to come and open up for us? And you know, again, that's great because you guys are all helping each other out. Whereas a lot of times when you're even dealing with the original rock bands, they're all in competition with one another. Man, we're gonna get our video, you know, to outdo theirs. We're gonna get our album, you know, selling more copies than this band.
Right.
And I think it's just great that everybody is kind of one big happy family working together. And you know, you're so right too, Forrest, that the Cream, like any other thing in life, people work hard enough, you know, they get a little bit of success, and the Cream, you know, kind of rises at the top, if you will, like Bonfire. You take like Led Zeppelin, Wild Child, the Atomic Punks. These bands have now been doing it for a while, and there's a reason you guys are still here. It's because you put on a dynamite show, and you guys deliver. You're not just going out there, you know, and just you know, put on a shitty show or anything. You guys really care about what you do, and that's why you're still doing it, and that's why people are still coming to your show.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. I mean, and I think, you know, I mean, we all know of so many other bands where there's just tons of infighting and whatever, and you know, most of the tribute bands I know actually get along pretty well, but you know, they got their issues as well.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, but certainly one thing with Bonfire is that, I mean, those guys are like family to me.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I mean, other than Diego, who's been in the band about 2.5 years, the rest of us have been together for 8 years or more. Yeah. And when the founder of the band left, in looking for a new Angus, he had to be kind of small in stature and be able to just have the energy and the stamina to deliver on stage. But literally half of what we needed was the character and the person, because if it's some troublemaker or making excuses or just whatever, just coming from a different place psychologically, it's just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all, it's based on mutual love and respect, and we get along just so great. I mean, that on and off stage, there's just a lot of love between the guys in the band, and that certainly makes it a lot easier when you get on stage that we're just having fun together, and it doesn't matter whether we're playing for 10,000 people or if we're playing for 20 people. Not that that's happened in a while, but
yeah.
We're going to have fun either way, and either you're out in the crowd and you're going to join in, I'll have fun, or we're going to have fun either way. So
okay, and the last thing the last thing I want to ask you about before I let you go is I was curious. I don't know if this is an easy thing for you to do or not. Do you have an all-time favorite ACDC album?
Yeah.
And what's that? Highway to Hell. And if you guys, I was curious if you guys ever talked anything. Another big thing that a lot of bands are doing these days are performing like something like Highway to Hell or something in its entirety. Have you ever talked about that?
Oh yeah, we've done that before.
Oh.
And, twice we've done the whole Back in Black album, which is kind of out of our normal character. But we've done the whole Highway to Hell album a few times. We've done the whole Let There Be Rock album a few times. I want to say we've even done the whole Power. Yeah, actually, I know we have. We've done the whole Power Edge album. In fact, one night we did the whole Power Edge album and Highway to Hell album.
Back to back. Wow.
Jumped back and forth between the two albums and did both albums all the way through.
And how did that go over when you guys did it?
Oh, it was good. It was great. It was a lot of fun because Power Edge has probably the best known song off of that is Rock and Roll Damnation.
Yeah.
And literally half of the Highway to Hell album is big hits.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun to jump back and forth between the two, and I mean it's great. I mean our favorite album is Power Edge. Down Payment Blues.
Okay.
Kicking the Teeth. It's just like
wow.
And it's just such a great record that that's the stuff that is probably our favorite to play.
Wow.
But in front of a lot of audiences, they'd be going, I don't know this song. But, so that's why it was kind of fun to kind of do that and Highway to Hell, and it was a good kick. We haven't done it in a long time. Maybe we should again.
Well, Forrest, I could talk to you all day, but I realize you're very busy. I'd like to thank you once again for taking time to do this, and maybe down the line we can talk again, but I'll be sure you get a copy of this interview. I'll let you know if a minute goes up, probably be up in a week or so.
Excellent.
And then you can let all your friends know about it. But, love to do this again when you have a chance, but it's been great talking to you, and you guys have any shows coming up?
God, I'm trying to think what's the next things coming up. Actually, this coming weekend, we're going to be up in Hollister, California.
Oh, okay. Wow, what fun.
There's a great venue. It's big, like kind of outdoor amphitheater up there, and that place just goes off. So, I mean, we're really looking forward to that.
Well, have fun doing that, and again, thanks for taking time to do this. I can't thank you enough. It's been great talking to you, and I'll let you know when the interview goes up, and I'll be sure you get a copy of it. So take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.